War Eagle! Welcome to the Auburn Tigers Football Podcast. Here are your hosts, Brett Mason and Jamie Thomas.
And here we go with our third ever podcast of the 2015 season. I am your host, Brett Mason. My co-host, as always, Jamie Thomas. Hello, War Eagle, sir.
Roll Tide, Roll Tide.
I tell you, I don't know if you're listening to the podcast right now when you're listening, because obviously we produce these on early in the week, but then people listen for even weeks later. But as we are recording this, tomorrow, Tuesday, Auburn kicks off fall camp, and then I think Thursday, Alabama kicks off fall camp. So it's the close I can taste it at this point.
Man, it's just the most wonderful time of the year.
We're starting to see more and more news and projections and quotes and a little bit of drama coming out, and Paul Feinbaum is off in it again. We may do something on him maybe in another podcast. I don't know. He's if you can't count on him for nothing else, you can count on Paul Feinbaum to stir up something, can't you?
I'm telling you, I don't even listen to that guy, man. I can't stand the call-in people. I just hate it. Now, he did have a segment the other day with Jerry. Doing some calls from some previous SEC games. It was pretty neat.
Yeah, I like his show when he has good guests on, but his bread and butter has been having these stereotypical, outrageous, insane fans of Auburn and Alabama call in and act ignorant, and I don't get that much out of that. I guess every now and then it'd be okay, but that's one day why, my friend, one day this podcast is going to take Paul Feinbaum down.
Hey, we'll be bigger than him. We'll be bigger than Cowherd. I'm telling you, man, we're on our way to the top.
So this week we're doing something a little bit interesting. Jamie had an idea. He's like, man, why don't we run down the biggest plays for Auburn and Alabama? And we didn't really talk a lot about what that would be involved in that. But I decided for Auburn to just go with my favorite plays. Now, look.
Yeah, you didn't really pay attention to the homework assignment, Brett.
Yeah, well.
Of course, I can kind of understand having to go back, past 10 years, maybe Auburn's tradition and it's quite as good as Bama's, not as many things to be proud of, but, I understand.
Whatever. None of your stuff was older than 10 years. None of it.
That's what I'm saying. I just went back 10 years. We have so many great moments in the last 10 years. I don't have to go all the way back to 1984 or 1985.
Look, I didn't have to go back that far, but as you will learn as we count down my favorite top 5 moments in Auburn football history, there's a reason why I went back to 1982.
Well, I already – was it 82? Good.
It was 82. Gracious. I had a very specific reason for that, and I will get into some detail in it as we count them down. Let me first tell the folks, if you happen to be an Auburn fan or you like hearing about Auburn and Alabama, we also do an Alabama podcast where Jamie will be running down the biggest Alabama moments for him, and all those are announced on our website, southeasternfootball.com, or on either of the Facebook pages you have. You can look for Auburn Tigers football on SEF or Alabama Crimson Tide football on SEF, and you can find us that way. So that's what both of the podcasts will be about this week. So let's jump right into it so I can explain myself. I already have to explain myself. This is what it's like doing a podcast with you. We haven't even got started.
Hey, I'm keeping you on your toes, man.
I'm going to try to provide a little bit of audio clips with our countdown as well. Of course, that doesn't translate quite as well as video. And I tell you, I was surprised that the audio clip for my first one in our series of 5 wasn't more entertaining, but it really isn't that entertaining. But nevertheless, I'll play the clip real quick and we'll come back and talk about it. Here you go, Auburn fans. I bet all you guys will recognize this.
4th and goal and a half a yard. Jackson! Touchdown!
Of course, that would be the infamous Bo over the top 1982. Bo Jackson goes over the top for the go-ahead score that, and here's why this is significant. This is why this is significant, Jamie Thomas, in case you didn't know this. That ended a 9-year losing streak. 9 years for the Auburn Tigers in the Iron Bowl. But it was much more than that, and I'm not sure if you're aware of this or not. You may or may not be, but not only did it end that streak, it flipped around and changed forever how Auburn operated, I think, as a university. I think their mindset towards college football and It also changed things up. Of course, a lot of that had to do. It wasn't long after that the legendary Paul Bear Bryant passed.
Yep, his last Iron Bowl. That's right.
But things flipped, and check out the stat. You may know this stat, you may not. But in the same amount of years before that Iron Bowl win by Auburn, compared to the same amount of years after it, Auburn had only won 33% of Iron Bowls in the 33 years before it. And since then, Auburn has won 55% of Iron Bowls. It's a pretty big stat. I'll admit I wasn't an Auburn fan at that time. I was 12. I didn't get into Auburn football until I was a little bit older, but another reason I picked that is Bo Jackson is the reason I kind of got into Auburn, because I liked him in the pros. Yeah. And so then that led me to go back to look, to learn about him playing at Auburn, and here you go. That's how I wound up being. But very interesting. I tell you, that stat is very telling. Boy, Auburn just got their butt kicked into 33 years before that game. Good Lord.
They did, and Bo, Bo had a chip on his shoulder. He wanted to show Bear Bryant that he could be a big time running back. I think Bear told him if he went to Auburn, he would never beat Alabama, and he showed it his first year there that he could beat Alabama. He could put Auburn on his shoulders and carry them to a victory in the Iron Bowl.
Well, and he did that. He's very similar to Cam Newton in that regard. He pretty much was the team then.
Bo Jackson is, in my opinion, had he not gotten hurt, even before the injury, he's probably the greatest athlete that's ever lived in our time.
Oh, no doubt. Multiple sports, and if he could have stayed healthy, there's just no telling what the guy would have done. He was just incredible, and everybody loved him, pretty much. Alabama fans probably didn't love him at that time, but I think later on, even a lot of Alabama fans grew, because how can you not love somebody that dominant? I mean, it's kind of like Ronda Rousey, man. Everybody loves that woman.
Man, she's tough, ain't she?
if you can prove that you're a winner no matter what, people will come around. They'll love you. All right, next on the list, number 4. God, now most of these are going to be about the same year.
I'm starting to see a trend here, Brett. We're already 2 into your list, and so far they've both been about the Iron Bowl.
Well, now this is the Iron Bowl, but it's not about the Iron Bowl. This is not why this is a huge moment for me. We're talking about the comeback in general, which led, of course, to the Auburn Tigers being the national champions in 2010. But this is the moment that turned that. If I recall correctly, Auburn was down 24-0 at this point in game. 24-0. It was ugly. I don't think we've ever talked about this game that much. I know you're a little bit more reserved than the average Alabama fan, but at this point when this moment happened and it's 24-0, did you feel like Alabama was just gonna put the whoop on Auburn?
I never felt comfortable this entire game.
Yeah?
Never felt comfortable the entire game. I knew what Cam Newton was capable of doing. I knew what that Auburn football team had in them. And Bama could have been up 49-0, and I wouldn't have been comfortable until the final seconds ticked off the clock. Well,
later on in the countdown, we'll talk a little bit about what Cam Newton had to do with that season and that game in particular, but we would not have won that game if it were not for this moment, and it was for a guy that a lot of people don't even remember. Carter runs down Ingram, who is often running. Ingram is often running. He's on the far sideline, and I think he's 25, 30-yard line. And it's a touchdown. And, man, in my opinion, that would have sealed the game. If he gets in, that seals the game. Carter runs up, punches it out. It's a fumble, which something Ingram rarely did. Ingram he didn't fumble.
It wasn't just a fumble. It was like in slow motion. The ball just trickled down the sideline, and every Alabama fan in the country was just, please, God, let that ball go out of bounds.
Yeah, and it didn't. It made it all the way into the end zone. And that was the catalyst for the comeback. I don't think if that would have happened, even if he doesn't score, even if they get out, Alabama probably gets it in from there. At the very least, they get a field goal. And, knowing what the score wound up being, you'd have to project we probably wouldn't have won that, probably wouldn't have won the national championship. That was huge, and it sounded like this.
Over the middle. Pass is caught by Ingram. Sets a tackle. 50, 40, 35, 30. Stumbling at the 20. Ball knocked out from behind. It rolls down into the end zone. And that's a touchback. It's a touchback. It'll go back to
I tell
Auburn.
you, I'm really tempted to play that again, Jamie, but I'm just not going to.
I'm just gonna have to take the headset off and come back when you're done. I have a headache.
Well, Jamie's going to beat me up over this, but my number 3 all-time favorite play is in the same game, and I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to be a little sappy. I could have picked other moments, but I picked this one because of the Lutzie. Because of the late great. I don't know if great's the right word. He was a great guy, though. I think most everybody that knew him personally thought he was just a great guy.
He was great for Auburn. He was great.
Yeah, he was just a great guy. He he didn't move on to the next level. He wound up coming back and helping the younger folks with football, and he was just endeared and loved. But the Lutzie was born during this game, and it was a beautiful, beautiful moment. It was the go-ahead score to win the Iron Bowl, led to the national championship. It was big for all those reasons. It brings back a ton of memories of Lutzenkirchen. He was a utility guy, but he always seemed to manage to come up big inside the red zone. He was just, he was just always there, and he always made the catch. And this was a big one. It was a beautiful play. Cam Newton moves off to the right. He's running right. The entire Alabama defense is in pursuit, and he twists back to his left, and there's just nobody over there. And Lutzenkirchen dragged it in the back corner of the end zone. It was the go-ahead to win the game. It was a beautiful, beautiful moment. One of the greater calls, too, by Rod Bramblett. It sounded something like this.
Cam takes the snap, looking for the receiver. He's got Lutzenkirchen. Touchdown, Auburn! Touchdown, Auburn! Lutzenkirchen. He threw it back across the field. 7-yard play. Touchdown, Tigers. We're tied at 27.
So do you remember that moment in that Iron Bowl?
I don't want to talk about it.
I tell you what, it's well, I'm not going to get ahead of myself. I'm forever going to remember that, though. I think Auburn fans are endeared to Lutzenkirchen, and one of the things we're always going to remember is that awkward, stupid-looking dance that he did in the end zone. So that's kind of why, I could have picked other things, but for sentimental reasons, I went for number 3. Like I said, if you asked a bunch of experts, they wouldn't come up with my list. But this is our podcast, and we can have any list we want on here.
Do you have anything on this list that's not related to the Iron Bowl?
Absolutely. I'm glad you mentioned that. How about number 2?
Okay.
2010 National Championship. It's all tied up 19-all, and Auburn is on their own 40, and there's 2 minutes left in the game. And biggest moment sets up the winning score and was one of the most talked about plays of the entire season, and it just happened to happen in the National Championship game. Dyer, does anybody remember Dyer? At this moment in his career, man, we thought he was going to be a great Auburn man. Boy, did that ever go down the tubes. But anyway, it's just an amazing run. He's headed down. He gets hit. He does a little spin around on the defender. His knees never touch. Everybody stops, and somebody looks at him and goes, keep running.
Newton takes the snap, gives it to Dyer, the freshman back, runs for 6 to the 46. He was tackled by Eddie Pleasant. No, he wasn't. He's still on his feet at the 40, 35, 30, down the sideline to the 23. He was pulled down on top of Pleasant. Everybody stopped except for Dyer.
And so he fires off and runs. Does not make the touchdown, but I believe he gets down to around the 22-yard line, something like that, which set up the winning field goal and, of course, earned Auburn its 76th national championship if you use Alabama math.
Why you got to be like that?
Because that's just what we do, brother. That's just what we do. It's going to get a lot worse before the season's over. You know that.
Yeah.
That was an incredible moment in that game, though.
It was. What's strange is we were me and the Auburn fans that I have to break bread at lunch with every day today. We were just talking about that play and how that just really kind of sealed it for Auburn and how great of a play that was. I think that play still stands out in the mind of most Auburn fans.
I tell you what's weird about that. Looking at it from a Dipper's perspective, but not my perspective as an Auburn fan, but from the perspective of Michael Dyer. That should have just been the highlight of that game or the highlight of that season. That wound up being his peak. He peaked on that play, and it was just downhill from there. And I tell you, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this because I didn't know what the podcast is about, but I just don't understand athletes with so much promise in their future
Well, what's crazy is right now Michael Dyer is competing against the former Alabama running back Trent Richardson for the job in Oakland. So you never know.
Yeah, no, he could. No, absolutely, he could. But look, I think we can all agree his path would have been much easier. Probably, I don't know. When you go back and look at what Auburn looked like 2 seasons later, maybe not. Maybe he did wind up taking the right path. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how far you get ahead on a 3-9 season. The argument could have been made. Maybe the season been a little better if he was there. Either way, the guy has tried in every way possible to throw his career away. Nobody wishes the best for him more than me because he's really talented and he's really small. That's the thing that always impressed me about him. He looks so small on the field, but he's not. He's just compact. He's not small. He's just compact. And he let that use it for him. Look, I held off for number 1 because when this is over, you probably won't even be able to breathe.
I'm just going to go take a break. You do what you need to do, and I'll be back in a minute, okay?
Tied at 28 all with 1 second left in regulation. Alabama and Nick Saban, the greatest coach of all time, decides to try a 500-yard field goal. He's like, I know we can win this game, boys. We're gonna put this freshman out on the field, and he's gonna kick a 500-yard field goal. And it's going to be great.
What I don't understand, Bama hasn't had a kicker in 10 years that hit one outside of 23 yards. And they're questionable inside of that. What in the world was Coach Saban thinking?
You know what I think? I just think he figured it was a long shot, but if they missed, nothing bad would happen. I don't think he was, he was like, we'll just take a shot. We'll probably miss it, but nothing bad will happen. We'll beat them in overtime.
Take that one out of the playbook, Coach.
Yeah, I don't think he'll ever do that again. But you know what? Hand it to, and as a matter of fact, I've read some interviews and stuff where it really wasn't even Gus who was pushing this. Some other folk, Lashley and some other folks were like, hey, we need to get so-and-so in the end zone. We got a shot here if it lands perfectly or whatever. It wasn't even Gus, so I don't want to give him too much credit. But they were ready. And it's one of the most beautiful moments. Rod Bramlett's greatest call ever. Every time I hear this call, I get this. We may listen to this one twice. This is what it sounds like as Chris Davis runs it back 109 yards to crush Nick Saban's dreams.
So I guess if this thing comes up short, he can field it and run it out. All right, here we go. 56-yarder. Does not have the leg. And Chris Davis takes it in the back of the end zone. He'll run it out to the 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 45. There goes Davis. Oh, my God. Davis is going to run it all the way back. Auburn's going to win the football game. Auburn's going to win the football game. He ran the missed field goal back. He ran it back 109 yards. They're not going to keep him off the field tonight. Holy cow. Oh, my God. Auburn wins. Auburn has won the Iron Bowl. Auburn has won the Iron Bowl in the most unbelievable fashion you will ever see. I cannot believe it. 34-28. Oh, my Lord in heaven. Chris Davis just ran it 109 yards, and Auburn is going to the championship.
Wow, God, that's the most awesomest thing ever. I wish I could figure out how to make my alarm clock play that when it's time for me to wake up.
I just want to stab my eardrums out.
Auburn's going to win the football game.
Okay, stop.
Auburn's going to win the football game.
all kidding aside, whether you're a Bama fan or an Auburn fan or a Georgia Tech fan or a Cal fan or whatever, that is probably the most exciting moment in college football history ever. Take away the Flutie Hail Mary, the Cal Stanford band game. I mean, you can look at anything that just to witness that in a lifetime. I mean, no matter which side of the fence you were on, it's just amazing, absolutely amazing.
Yeah, and for everybody, because no matter who you're a fan of, it's the reason the thing is so crazy is because it's just so unlikely that could ever happen. It probably may never happen again. One of the funny things about that, I didn't play the TV call, but of course nobody likes Vern and what's his name? Gary. But one of the weirdest comments ever made by a commentator, if you probably do remember this, was Gary's like, they weren't ready for it. They had a bunch of fat guys on the field. They didn't have no athletes on the field.
Yeah.
I didn't like if I'd have been on the team or if I were a fan, I wouldn't have minded him calling them fat guys or big guys. But to say they aren't athletes is just insulting. I mean,
well, Gary's an idiot.
Even the biggest, slowest guys on there are athletes. They're just designed to do a certain kind of thing. They aren't designed to run, 440s or whatever. But anyway, I'm not going to play that again. I'm not going to force you to listen to it. But I am going to figure out how to put it on my alarm clock where I can wake up to it every day.
As long as I never have to hear it again, I'm okay with that.
You're not going to keep them off the field tonight. You're not going to. By the way, coincidentally, I think it was something like $70 or $80,000 worth of damage to the grounds done there after that. So I guess I guess that's okay when you go on and play for the national championship, which they did.
Yeah, I guess so.
All right, there you go. Hey, listen, thanks for listening to the podcast. We just really love and appreciate you guys listening. If you want to listen to the Alabama podcast, here's how you can subscribe to them all. The Alabama Auburn, there's many ways. We've made it really easy. Instead of giving things to search for and all that, just know that you can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn. You can download our free app, which will just put our podcast right on your phone when it's updated, and that's for iOS. The easiest way to find those is just go to the website, and there's little buttons you can click no matter what platform you're looking for. That's the simplest way, and that is southeasternfootball.com/connect. southeasternfootball.com/connect. Subscribe to the podcast. We'll see you next time. And flip on over and check out the Alabama podcast where we count down. Jamie gives us his big 5 moments over there in Alabama football to him. And that should be a good show. We'd love to have you over there. We'll talk to you on that show. Jamie, thanks a lot, brother. Appreciate it.
All right, roll tide, buddy.
War Eagle.
Thanks for listening. Download our free iOS app. Just search for Tigers and Tide in the App Store. And subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, and iHeartRadio. Just search for Tigers and Tide. And for the latest SEC news, log on to southeasternfootball.com.